The number one mistake people make when asking questions is this. Yeah, they don't ask questions. There can be a bunch of reasons for this. For example, you can be very shy or you have a bad experiences from asking questions, something like you got a very rude answer from someone, or you just don't believe that asking questions is useful. Well, in this video, we will go through some of the benefits of asking questions, then some tips and advice on what you should do before you even ask a question, and then also we will go through some things that will help you to lower the barrier for asking. So for example, if you are very shy or if you are that junior developer who is just starting out their career, it can be very intimidating to ask questions from a senior developer, for example. So we will take a look on how to lower that barrier for asking questions. Well, the obvious benefit of asking questions is that you learn something new. But that's not all, because whenever you ask a question from someone, they will actually also learn from it too. Because whenever you are explaining something to someone, you are understanding that thing better when you explain it. So it's kind of a win-win situation. Another situation I want to mention is this where you are starting in a new job, or if you are starting in your first job, for example. In those cases, instinct might be to not ask so many questions, but you actually should ask more questions in that first few months in the company, for example, because you are kind of the new guy, and even though it's not a thing, but you basically have this extra permission to ask more questions, and people are more willing to answer also, because they know that, hey, you are a new guy, you don't know these things yet, so it's totally fine to ask a lot of questions. So in this kind of situations where you are starting in a new company or a new job, take advantage of that permission to ask more questions. So should you then just go and ask a bunch of questions without thinking twice? Well, no, because there's something you should do before you start asking a lot of questions, and that is to actually try to solve the problem by yourself. Of course, then if you have tried to solve it for a little while and you just hit the wall, you are stuck, then you should go ahead and ask a question. But it's always good to demonstrate effort before you are asking a question about the problem from someone else. So a good example of this is if you, for example, have to sort an array in JavaScript. Well, you shouldn't go right away and ask some senior developer, for example, that, hey, how do I sort an array in JavaScript? Because that's a question that you can really easily type into Google and then get an answer for it, and that way solve it by yourself. Of course, if you Google it, you get an answer in Stack Overflow and you start reading it and you don't understand it, then it's totally okay to ask, hey, I don't know how to sort an array in JavaScript. I found out this Stack Overflow post and this guy says to do this and this, but I don't quite understand what this means and how it's done. So that right there demonstrates effort that you have tried to solve the problem, and it also offers a possible solution for that person you are asking from. So they can say that, hey, this is okay, do it like this, or they can say that, yeah, that solution is not good, let's do it like this, for example. And at first it can be hard to know that, hey, is this question something that I can ask right away, or is this something stupid that I shouldn't ask? In those cases, I would say that, well, at first just ask, and you will really quickly understand and get the hang of it on what kind of questions are easy to Google, easy to find out yourself, and what kind of questions actually need help of someone else. So it will come with time. So at first you just need to bite the bullet and ask away, and sometimes get probably answers that, hey, this is in Google, you can find it from Google really easily. And that way you get the experience and you understand better on what kind of questions are easy to find out yourself. One other thing that I think is really important is to ask in public. And what I mean by this is write to a forum, or if you are in a company that uses Slack or Teams or something like that, go ahead and ask in the public channels instead of in the DMs. It might be easier to ask in the DMs, and it can be very intimidating to ask in the channels because you feel like, hey, I'm exposing that I don't know this stuff. Now everybody will think that I don't know anything, but that's not the case. I really think that asking in public has so many benefits that everybody should do that. In case the question or the thing you want to talk about is something personal or something that you actually need to ask privately from someone, then of course use DMs. But when you ask in public, there are a bunch of benefits. For example, you most likely get answers quicker because there is more people that see the question, and whoever sees it first and knows the answer can answer it right away. Then another thing is that if you ask a question in public and it concerns many people, for example, some feature that needs some backend developers work and then some front-end developers work, when you ask it in a channel in public, both of those or all of the people will see that question and they can comment right away that, hey, this is something that the backend is not ready for, or this needs this and that. So you save yourself from the DMs. Like if you DM the person X and he says that, yeah, ask this about the person Y, and then you have to DM the person Y, and so on, so on. So it's just so much easier to have it in public and everybody can comment it who it concerns of. And also when you ask in public, the chances are that there are people who don't know the answer to that question, but when someone answers that, they also learn from it. So after that, everybody knows the answer for that question and everybody learns. So it's a really big plus to actually ask in public. If you feel that asking in public is something that you're not comfortable yet, or it's intimidating, few tips that I can give you is that, of course, you can start by asking in DMs one-on-one. That's a good thing also, that you at least ask something when you have a question. But one thing is also to comment on other threads in the public channels, so you get used to commenting in the public channels, and that way it's much easier for you in the future to be the one asking question. So be active on the public channels in Slack or Teams or whatever you use, and that will that will lower the barrier of asking a question in a channel in the future. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you to DataCMS for sponsoring this week's video. DataCMS is a headless CMS, and it's really simply to use. It's user and most of all developer-friendly CMS. If we hover over the Why DataCMS in their datacms.com website, we can see they have a bunch of cool features that you can use. For example, in developers' perspective, having a GraphQL content API is a great way because we get all the content from the headless CMS as GraphQL. So if you are used to using GraphQL, this is really, really nice because you can use it in here too. Then another cool thing that I like is the real-time updates, which is basically offering live changes to a content on a website. And I have a video about this, so if you want to learn more about that, I will leave a link to the description. And lastly, what I want to show is the structured text component, or the structured text. So this is a way to store rich text content in DataCMS. And what I really like about this as a developer is that we get this rich text content in our application, and we can get it as JSON as shown in here. So it's really nice to work with. And what's nice about Data CMS from developers' perspective also is that they offer this React Data CMS NPM package. So as we see in here, it's a set of components and utilities to work faster with Data CMS in React environments. So if you're making a React project or Next.js project, you can use this NPM package to work with the Data CMS. So for example, the structured text that I just mentioned, if we take a look at the basic usage of it, we can use it this easily. So they offer this structured text component that we can just pass in the content as data prop. And this content over here is the result from the GraphQL API. So it's super easy to use, and you don't have to do any extra work on that. So if this piqued your interest, go to datacms.com and sign up for an account for free. Thank you again, Data CMS, for sponsoring this video. So when asking question, we already learned that you need to demonstrate effort to solve the problem already, but then also be humble. So start your question that, or admit that, hey, I don't know this, can you help me? So being humble, being direct, it really helps out, because for me at least, when someone asks like, hey, I've been struggling with this hours, I could really use your help, could you help me? Or like, I really don't understand what's happening in here, can you help me? That kind of questions, it's always nice to answer. And when you ask a question like that, you most likely will get a nice answer, and the person will answer you happily. That was a lot of talk about questions. Hopefully I wasn't just rambling too much, and I hope you enjoyed this video and actually learned something from it and learned to ask better questions, and maybe you also got encouraged to be more active in asking questions. If you did enjoy this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button below and subscribe to the channel. Those really help out with the algorithm, and also I would love to hear from you, so drop a comment if you feel like it. But that's all for now. I'll see you in the next video.